online. Θα μου επιτρέψετε να βγάλω τη μάσκα τώρα που θα μιλώ έτσι. Να ακούγεται πιο καθαρά αυτά που θα λέω. So let's start. Because we have also an audience who is joining online. And because it's an Erasmus Plus event. Before I start, if you don't have any objections, we should report also the events sort of evidence that it took place. Dear friends, I think I can call you friends, dear colleagues, and thank you to everyone who's joining us today, either in person or online. This is the first opening event that we're organizing here in ARIS since the pandemic, so it's really great to be able to see you and welcome you all in person this time. And we really missed having visitors around and like-minded people in this space, and we certainly missed physical interaction and the opportunity it brings for meaningful networking. So thank you for coming. And what a great opportunity it is to be able to organize this event at the occasion of this year's International Women's Day that was on the 8th of March with the theme Break the Bias, which spotlights individual and collective biases against women that fuel gender equality. As we all know, this day celebrates the global social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women, but it also calls for action to advance gender equality. A recent Deloitte report called Women in the Boardroom, a global perspective which includes updates from 72 countries on gender diversity in the boardroom, shows some progress towards the increasing the number of women on corporate boards, however at a snail's pace. So this means that according to the rate of change, we could expect to reach a level approaching parity in 2045. Now, this is not very pleasant or encouraging. And looking at the numbers in the innovation and startup ecosystem, the numbers are also discouraging. Women represent less than 20% of senior management in deep tech startups that have raised Series A or B, with CTO positions stagnating at 1%, only 1%, for the last 3 years. Now, in technology investment, men-only teams captured 91% of all capital raised and 85% of all rounds across Europe in 2020. Now, we all know that women are equally underrepresented in the management of venture capital. And of course, this has consequences for the rest of the innovation world. Female investors tend to invest more than men in companies with female founders. So the less women investors, the less teams with female founders. It is interesting to note, though, that there are new initiatives by the European Commission, and one of them is the new Women Tech Use Scheme, which has been launched, and the EIC Women Leadership Program. So these are just two of the actions that the EIC is taking to support the role of women in tech. And one way of promoting gender equality is to reduce, of course, women's underrepresentation in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, education, occupation, and careers. So we chose the title Dare to STEM for today's event, which is part of the FeSTEM project. most of you already have an idea of what the project is about, but allow me just to play a very short video that we developed in the context of this project, just 3 minutes to remind us ourselves of what is the FeSTEM project. Okay, so it has certainly been a challenge to put through the project in the past 2 COVID years. The project started right before the outbreak of the COVID. So we faced obviously various difficulties that we had to overcome during this period, but under the leadership of the coordinators from the Cyprus University of Technology and the collaboration of our partners from Italy, Greece, Slovenia and Spain, we find ourselves today just a couple of months before the project closure. So we would like to present to you today some results and more importantly to open the discussion around the challenges faced by women in STEM and moving forward how we can contribute towards achieving gender equality in the workplace and in society. So the event today is structured in 3 parts. In the first part, we have the pleasure to have with us Dr. Loizidou from ISOTECH. Then my colleague Xenia Loizidou follows with a presentation about our work for the development of the FeSTEM toolkit, which we have developed. We'll have the chance to have a discussion and Q&A. And afterwards, we will welcome Dr. Marianna Prokopi, who is a scientist, a researcher, and a mother. So she will share with us again the valuable experiences from the workplace and from everything she's been encountering through the founding 3 startups. Then Marianna, along with our panel of experts, Andreas, Michalis, and Eleni, will join us to present, to discuss the present and future of gender equality in STEM. We will also have a presentation from Irini about the FeSTEM community platform, and Irini will be here for everybody to register on the platform as well and be able to network with FeSTEM students and other professionals. So I think this is mostly it. I have mentioned everything. Please stay with us. We have plenty of food and drinks as well. We need to consume everything. And before I give the floor to Xenia, just allow me to say a few words about her, if that's okay. Xenia is an active coastal engineering entrepreneur. I'm sure you all have heard about her. She's co-founder of ISOTECH and also the NGO AKTI, which is a very active NGO. She's a member of many European and international expert groups. She has presence in a lot of countries, not only in Cyprus, and she has received many awards. So she's also a mother of 2 girls, so it's very important to stress that. And she's excited to always to support young people and motivating people to implement sustainable solutions and, of course, innovate. So let's welcome Xenia for her speech.
I take my mask. Whenever I am listening to something in CV, I realize that I'm getting old. Indeed, it's always, I consider it as a duty actually to stand by the girls, the women who are studying STEM, want to study STEM, or want to work in this very, very difficult field. We have you want to give this to me too? Talking about STEM, but these gadgets are always making my life difficult, so, and I don't see very well. Like this. Okay, so STEM up. This is my daughter. Because in sports we also have discrimination, but this is another story. Generally, we live in a society of bias, gender bias. The good news are that men, like Nikos, are very willing to speak about it and understand it. These are the good news. The bad news is that we need to do a lot of work to overcome this gap. And today we are talking about STEM. And already Eliza said a lot about numbers. I'm not going to repeat the numbers because FeSTEM did a great job. They're all there. What I want to discuss today is this. According to the Gender Equality Index of EU of 2019, we have 42 women in Cyprus studying STEM. 42%, sorry. 42% of the people who study STEM are women. Who works in STEM in Cyprus? 4%. Oops, here's the gap. Here is what really strikes everybody, even myself, when I see this. What's happening? What's the issue here? Why do women go study STEM but don't work in STEM? We will see some of the reasons we can discuss afterwards. Somebody keep the time for me, please, because it's talkative. Or I can put my stopwatch, allow me for just a second to do this, so I will not. Okay. So this is the big issue. One of the reasons is that most of women who study STEM go to educations, mathematics, physics, chemistry. The other reason is that women afterwards do something else, an MBA, and because engineering thinking, for example, is much wanted. So we have 4% of women actually working in this field. And I think this is the major problem. 19% of women work in education, health, and social work compared to 7% of men. We see here, in general, I want to read the last part. In general, proportions of both women and men working in STEM occupations in Cyprus are among the lowest in EU. This rings a bell. We have a problem here. And here is where we need to discuss why. And I think it's very important that projects and initiatives like FeSTEM arise and have this target to allow women to spark their motivation to remain active in STEM. Not only the issue to encourage young women, young girls to study STEM, but to remain active in STEM. I will go through some of the problems I believe that are major to have this situation here in Cyprus. I'm talking about Cyprus, not only Cyprus, of course, this is more general, but in Cyprus we really have a problem. I believe this is one of the problems that it's rarely mentioned as a problem. Cyprus ranks last in innovation among EU countries. And when we're talking about innovation in Cyprus, we have a twisted idea of innovation. We believe innovation is digital innovation, building platforms. Or we believe that innovation is academic research. Do you know which was the biggest innovation a Cypriot did that changed the life of Cypriots forever? Every Sunday? Fugu. Really? Before this innovation, people every Sunday should do this manually. Then this guy came, was an engineer, a car and auto mechanical, not engineer like this then. He was preparing, repairing things, and he made this, and this changed our life. This is innovation. So we have this twisted idea of innovation, and this is spread. And we have also the Research Promotion Foundation and Innovation, which is funding this kind of academic innovation. Innovation is a state of mind. Innovation is something we should encourage, we should cultivate, say, in our educational system, and we don't have. And I think this is a major problem for us to support women in STEM occupations. We are not encouraging innovation in Cyprus, because innovation is doing new things. And this is very important. Creativity is thinking up new things. This is also very important. But if we have creativity and we don't have innovation, things don't work. And we have a lot of blah, 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 and equality and gender issues, and we are talking about this, but we are not doing anything about this at the end of the day. Or we are doing few about this, not to say anything. 1 year ago, this is wrong, this was November 2020, we did a small research with AKTI in Cyprus. Actually, it was in Limassol. We had 13 interviews with men and women, asking them why they choose STEM or why they didn't choose STEM, and which were the main reasons that were critical towards their choice. I will not go through this. This is, we have a small paper about this. It seems to be critical. The people were critical on the education system. Okay. Also, employability. We know that, for example, I'm talking about myself. It's difficult to find a job as engineer, field engineer. And what is more discouraging is the low income, the low, yes, the money that we take. I'm moving forward to the problems, gender bias. Do you know the second generation gender bias? This is what we live nowadays. First generation was more clear. It was, oh, come on, go home, wash the dishes. Okay. This was the first generation. Now we have the second generation, which is we are members of the boards. Yes, very polite. We sit there and we are invisible. We say our opinion. They are all our.
Keep the minutes.
When
you sit on the board,
yes.
Just keep the minutes.
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting.
And should I say me too, me three, me four? It's happening all the time. But keep this. If you go into STEM professions, I can't talk about engineering, you can deal with this. Because women in STEM, I mean, becoming an engineer, I would say, or generally women in STEM, we become strong to deal with these issues. We can speak for this. We can demand our position in the board. We shouldn't, there shouldn't be a need to do this, but we can do this. And this is something that I encourage girls to do anyway. It helps you to live in a more, in a life with more equal opportunities if you study STEM. This is a very important issue. If you see the news, who are negotiating about the Cyprus issue, for example, I will say this in Greek, η χαρά του κουστούμιου. Women are the ones who bring the glass of water to the speakers. I will not go further. I'm not doing a feministic presentation here, but this is a very big problem, and it is discouraging. It is discouraging. Glass ceiling effect, you know about this, I'm sure. 3% of STEM industry CEOs are only women. This is from Credit Suisse. Glass ceiling effect is that we start all together. If you go to the parades around 25th of March, you will see most flags of schools are pulled by girls. And then these girls, 42% of STEM are girls. And then we have this. What's happening here? The glass ceiling effect. We all climb the stairs together, and something is there. The children, work-life balance. No. This is not. We can deal with this. We can deal with this. But we should talk about glass ceiling effect. We shouldn't be embarrassed to talk about this. We shouldn't be feel awkward to talk about this. This is happening. The stereotypes is another problem. You hear the elementary, even the elementary school, the teachers say, boys are better in maths. Why? I mean, there is a functioning problem with girls. I was good in maths. Most girls are good in maths. And the teachers say, okay, it's cold today. Boys play football, girls sit in the class. Or it's a very warm day today. Boys play football, girls sit under the shadow. These are the stereotypes we have all been through, but they create the whole context to lead girls into the Barbie type stereotype. There are a lot of other stereotypes. For example, you hear the commercials Have you heard this commercial about the car insurance? Is this girl is calling the guy, the AA, and she says, hello, I am in the forest. And the guy says, okay, we're coming to rescue you. What do you see around here? And she says, trees. Okay, you are there. So the girl is stupid by default. She cannot use a GPS to say where she is. But her car, who is made by a man, has the GPS, and it's, of course, the Superman goes there to rescue the girls. This is a commercial I was listening now that I was coming. I mean, it just drives me crazy. Things like this. And I'd say it's not a feministic discussion. This is the reason we don't have women working in STEM. These are the stereotypes that keep us low. Confidence gap. It is proven that women have more confidence gap. They feel more, they have less of confidence than their male peers. And this comes again from school, from the education. Anybody know skill here? You do? Yeah. And what is the first thing we learn when we do skill? The first thing we learn is how to fall.
Yeah, it's what I asked.
How to fall. So we learn how to fall, so we will not break a leg and we can come up. This is not what we learn at schools, however, here, our education system. If you fail in just in an exam or in a test at school, oh, wow, you have punishments, you are like, it's the stress of failure that leads a lot of women not to choose STEM. The stress of failure. We should overcome this stress of failure. If we don't fall, we will never succeed anything. It is part of learning. Failing is part of learning. Male-dominated cultures. Okay, STEM is a male-dominated profession, engineering much more than IT, for example. So this male-dominated culture is a bit intimidating for women. And I want to show you here, again, a study we did at AKTI. The male-dominated culture is all over the place. We did this study, which I think is interesting. We called it Mapping Sexes. It was initially done in Slovenia, and we took the idea from there. So I'm always mentioning where we took the idea. We did this in 3 cities, not in Limassol. So perhaps this will be our next small exercise. I'm presenting here Larnaca. We took the street names, and we saw how many, we saw the diversity of street names. So 1,088 streets in Larnaca municipality. 2 of them have a woman's name, a modern woman's name, because we had names like Lyra, Artemis, Aphrodite, ancient Greek names. We had a religious name like Panagias, Saint whatever, Saint Irene or what. 2% had women name. How many were of these women were in STEM? Only Marie Curie. You know why Marie Curie is well known? Marie Curie is well known because she was doing this research in radon, in radioactivity with her husband. They were known as a couple. Up to a moment, her husband was receiving all the awards. But then her husband had an accident and he died. But she was already established, so she continued the research by herself. It's sad to say this, but here is what we are through. And these are exercises that give us the idea. Pure role models. FeSTEM says about this. Did you ever learn in school about these amazing women that really are pioneers. These books should be taught at school. Did you know that the first woman, the first programmer was a woman? Do we know that Mrs. Johnson was the mind behind Apollo's missions in Moon in 1950s? We don't know this. But we believe that women are not good in maths because this is the perception. So Raquel Grotowski, she did a lot of work, women in science, women in art, women, just Google her. And even I'm into this for 30 years and I was really fascinated about all these pioneer women. We did a lot of progress. If you think that the first woman accepted in Sorbonne, France, was the beginning of the 20th century or the end of the 19th century, we did a lot of progress the last 100 years, but as Eliza said, well, it's a bit of snail progress. Of course, if you think that for 2000 years there was not a progress in this, we can be satisfied, but we are not. We need more. Usually, when we are talking about women in sciences, you are listening about Hypatia. Hypatia was in Alexandria, but from Hypatia to Mrs. Johnson, who did Apollo, there are 2000 years. Who is in the middle? Nobody. And I'm very strong in this. This should be taught at schools, to have the role models there, to know that it can happen. So, and now I will start to be very honest with you. Is it easy to work in STEM? I can speak on engineering, about engineering, because I'm an engineer for the last 30 years. It's not easy. Actually, it's very difficult, especially to be a field engineer. It's very difficult. It's not difficult only because you have to prove yourself against your men peers. And I have to be honest that my men colleagues were very supportive. I was lucky. In all construction sites that I worked, in all works that I've been, my engineer colleagues were very supportive. But it is by itself difficult to be a field engineer. But it is so exciting. It is so rewarding. I would suggest to people to follow your heart. If you like this, do it. It's difficult, but we like it. We like difficult things. Actually, this is kite surf. This is something I always wanted to do. I didn't do it, and I'm thinking now I will break my neck if I try it. But still, it's my dream to go on kites. I will tell you some stories of my life. This is the scream. Sometimes I feel like this. I feel like screaming. I was for 10 years in public works department as an engineer. Then I quit it. And my first assignment was in a village, I will not say where. I was 28 years old. I had these yellow caterpillar boots, my jeans like today, a t-shirt, hug a tree. So I go to this village because their coast was eroding. And the president of the village, Mukhtaris, and the rest of men, 80s now, I was talking about the beginning of 90s, were sitting there. I go there, I said, I'm the engineer from Public Works Department. She said, okay, Mano, we'll sit here, we will make a coffee for you, and we will be waiting for the engineer. I said, I am the engineer. I said, okay, well, have your coffee, Mano, we'll sit here. Okay, I sat there, half an hour passed. I told them, nobody's coming, it's just me. I mean, take me or leave it. What can I say to you? What they did, they called the public works department to confirm that it's a girl, girl engineer. And then I had to deal with their disappointment and their mistrust. They wouldn't trust me. And I tell you, however, that this I can deal because it's honest. I mean, this is how they learn. This is what they know, these people. What I cannot deal with and I become crazy is what I face in boards, in boards of directors. This I cannot deal with. This I'm becoming crazy. So we need to be separate which is really biased and which is a traditional bias. Or when the first time I was in the construction site, the people who are the workers there, they try to use difficult words that we don't learn at the universities, so to make us feel awkward and a bit embarrassed. The best thing is to be honest. I don't know what it is. It works. And this is what we learn in STEM. And this is what we should do. If we don't know something, we say, I don't know this. So I will finish. Institutional changes. If we don't have institutional changes, forget about everything. Forget it. We need institutional changes. We need more women in decision making. And I will say this, gender shouldn't be based on political parties, women groups. Civil society should be more active in this. You see all these political parties have a different agenda. Civil society, engineers, mathematicians, whatever, the STEM, biology. Civil society should be more active in Cyprus on these issues. Entrepreneurship. We have these projects for women entrepreneurship. The commercials show women making jobs, making suzukus, making. Okay, this is. I respect this, and this is very important. But this is what we need in STEM. Where is the support for STEM, for women in STEM to become professionals? So already Eliza talked about this, networks. We need strong networks. We need to support each other. And this is not the reality. I don't know if we are honest among us. I didn't find support, a lot of support from women. So why? There are answers about this, but we don't have time to answer this. I think, however, things are changing, and we started having a network of support here, as we are here. And I tell you that whoever needs anything, I am available. Marianna is available. We are all available to support you. And it's been recently I learned this emotional oxygen. Do you know what it's this term? I didn't know. I liked it very much. When somebody tells you their story, their problem, and then you say it back to them, to the person, this creates an emotional oxygen. It puts things in content, and it's easier to find a solution on this problem, find a way out. So I would say speak out, speak up, be bold. You don't have to be afraid of anything. And smile. We can smile and we can be good engineers. It's not contradicting smiling and a good professional. We can introduce smile in our professional lives. And this is something women can do. And here is my motto. Success is a state of mind, which was Deloitte's motto. Winning is a state of mind. That's why I love Deloitte. So winning is a state of mind. And I believe strongly in this. Science is magic that works. And for me, after 30 years in engineering, as a field engineer, I can tell you, even now, if I had to choose again, I would do exactly the same thing. Although when I was a pupil, I wanted to become a ballet dancer. I became an engineer. But I tell you, science is magic that works. And this is something you cannot give up. This is something that fills your life, makes you strong, makes you optimistic about things because you see it there, it works. You make think, you are solution oriented. So STEM up and we can do it. Thank you.
They're very excited. Very
Your time.
I don't think very presentation and sure you will receive a lot of calls and emails and follow.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. I will sit back.
I think I guess I was here. Because, you know, you speak from your heart that it's a problem that everybody faces, but nobody talks about it. So it's excellent to hear.
Yes, very inspiring. So now Until will also present our work in the FeSTEM project that we did as ARIS. Our full attention from here and
hello, for those of you who do not know me, I'm Xenia Loizidou, the operations officer of ARIS, and I'm very happy to present you the FeSTEM Industry Informed Toolkit that we have developed in the context of the project. The Industry Informed Toolkit is addressing the needs of women in the STEM professional world, and it is expected to act as a guide for both higher education students and entrepreneurial stakeholders who need to be informed about gender-sensitive policies and practices. The aims are for higher education students to become self-aware of the challenges and difficulties of real-world STEM professions, and for industrial and entrepreneurial stakeholders to become self-aware of their gender-sensitive status and then take appropriate actions to improve it. The toolkit can also be used from several other stakeholders, such as policy and decision makers in different fields who are interested in knowing and learning more about the practices they can adopt in their areas. The toolkit summarizes the challenges that women are expected to encounter in their early and senior careers in the STEM fields, and also the best practices and policies that are in place for promoting the participation of women in STEM-related professions. A state-of-the-art review took place to map the challenges and good practices in STEM professions through a comprehensive and systematic literature review, which created a holistic view of the challenges and good practices in STEM careers. The review denoted the following categories of challenges and best practices, which are the personal challenges that STEM professionals are expected to encounter and good practices they apply. Workplace, referring to the challenges encounters at workplace and good practices that organizations apply. And the third one is social and public space, which refers to challenges in general and practices that governments, international organizations, and associations apply. For the development of the toolkit, both desk research and field research were conducted. The field research included an online survey targeting junior and senior professionals from STEM-related industries, as well as 5 focus group discussions with women in lower and higher ranks in STEM professions in both academia and industry. We have collected the responses of 283 STEM professionals from Italy, Cyprus, Greece, Slovenia, and Spain, with the aim to learn more about their perceptions about the challenges and good practices that are in place in the industry, as well as suggestions for support mechanism towards better support for women in STEM. Regarding the perceptions about the challenges, that is showed that the representation of men and women in STEM is not equal. And what was mentioned is that usually there's the perception that women hold position with less developmental prospects, and they are being held back from becoming industry leaders. This goes also with the career progress that is easier for male than female professionals. And regarding the challenges, what was mentioned as the most important was the work-life balance, followed by the lack of acknowledgement from their superiors, or STEM misconceptions and stereotypes, like that males, for example, are best suited for STEM professions than females. Women also face practical and stereotypical challenges in their workplace. Stereotypical challenges include the physical appearance, let's say, of women in their workplace and sexist approaches by their seniors. Practical challenges mentioned is that, for example, not being given the opportunity to travel abroad due to motherhood or because society reproves women with young children traveling for business purposes. Regarding the compensation, the perception here is that there is a pay gap between male and female professionals in the STEM industry, and the gender does play a role in this as well. When it comes to the practices, it seems that there are not enough practices and policies in place to ensure the full integration and successful integration and development of women in the STEM fields, and more national policies need to be in place to encourage the application of such practices in the STEM fields. Organizations and government also need to increase women's visibility in these professions and make sure that they are recognized and awarded. What needs to be done? Support networks must push for legislation changes to set the necessary framework for progress. More measures to improve the work-life balance, promote a work culture of gender equality, and guarantee equal career development pathways and recognizing and acknowledging women in STEM should be in place. Companies that demonstrate equal treatment of employees regardless of their gender should be rewarded and recognized. Actions to increase the awareness of policies and practices aimed at empowering women to remain active in the STEM industry should be implemented. And also awareness raising campaigns in STEM industry. What Xenia stressed earlier, the promotion of role models plays a key role in this, and it was mentioned, and as well as online community platforms within the STEM industry for providing networking opportunities and offering support to female in the STEM careers. You will have the chance to learn more about the STEM community platform that has been developed by our colleague Irene later on. The desk research, the aim of our desk research was to identify and showcase examples of existing good practices that are in place and are applied across the globe for encouraging women to remain active in STEM by eliminating unequal treatment and opportunities and gender biases. The best practices identified for better support towards women in the STEM industry were distinguished in 6 categories of policymaking, funding awards, employment, career advancement, awareness, and networking, and they were classified based on the main policy they adopt. The examples that were chosen with an eye to provide specific examples of best practices and good practices and policies that are followed by high impact enterprises in the STEM fields. And they also differ in terms of efforts and resources needed for their implementation. We consider policymaking as the most demanding, whilst networking as the least demanding. The desk research, also in line with the primary research conducted, revealed that although there are several examples of good practices and policies applied within organizations, women are still underrepresented, and there is a need for the development and implementation of more measures and policies that will ensure the full participation of women in STEM-related fields, and to increase also the share of women in both technical and leadership roles. These are the main topics of our toolkit. You can also have a full access on the report through our website. And we also have some copies here, which you can have a look at, and we're at your disposal for any further questions or clarifications. Thank you.
So we have also printed a very nice infographic, which is there, and all the results again. We have also copies of the report there. I think we can break shortly for a coffee until we set up everything for the discussion which will follow. Σας και σας ο COVID.
Ναι, δυστυχώς. Αλλά έτσι καλά.
Το καμού επάς.
Μίλησα χθες. Χαίρετε. Μίλησατε χθες. Θα στείλεις σου να σου πει.